Hi, everybody. I'm Craig Hardesty with Out on Film, and I want to welcome all of you to this Out on Film in Conversations with the cast of After Forever Season 2. And I want to introduce our own, Atlanta's own Rich Eldridge, who is going to be our host for this conversation. So, Rich, I will turn everything over to you.
Thanks, Craig. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Out on Film, Kevin and Mitchell, Season 2. So let's go around and just have everyone talk about your role on the show or your position behind the camera.
And who do you want to start with?
I think you, Kevin.
Oh, okay. Well, I see Tina, Kevin.
I know we're all in different places on each of our screens.
Hi, I'm Kevin Speargus. I'm co-creator, co-producer, and star of After Forever. And that's me. And Mr. Slade is down there in my left corner.
Well, I'm actually, you're in the Paul Lynde's
oh, wow, who cares about
and I'm above you. But I'm Michael Slade. I'm the co-creator and writer of After Forever.
And my name is Mitchell Anderson, and I am Kevin's lover in After Forever.
Husband.
Husband, yes, husband. Yes, we're married.
I'm Tina Cisa Ward. I'm the director of Season 2.
I'm Lenny Walpe, and I play Mitchell's dad and Kevin's father-in-law in the show.
Hey, I'm Mike McGowan, and I play David. I'm the new boyfriend.
My name is Christopher Hankey, and I am new to Season 2. I play Stefan, who is a client of Mitchell Anderson's character and a new starting to work with Kevin's character, and has a past in their relationship.
Ooh.
Well,
That's very cryptic. That's very cryptic.
I know. Lots of, well, hopefully people who are tuning into this have already seen Season 2, so there will not be any spoilers. And for those who were not able to join us last year, first of all, let's talk about 5 Emmy Awards. Was it 5?
For Season 1.
Can I just continue to refer to the Emmy Award winning After Forever? I'll just throw that in about 20 times if you want.
Please do.
And Season 2 won Best Writing Team, thanks to Mr. Michael Slade.
Speaking of, this whole thing starts with the writing. And Kevin, you have talked about this before. I've not been fortunate enough to have Michael Slade on. And so the glass half full for a pandemic, we have Michael Slade with us. Can you talk a little bit about the original idea, the original inspiration for this series, and how it intersects with what Kevin wanted to accomplish?
Wow, sure. Well, Kevin and I knew, well, I had written for Days of Our Lives. I wrote, which Kevin was on for many years. I joined it just as Kevin's character was leaving it, so we never physically met. Flash forward a bunch of years, and Kevin, I was at my gym here in New York, and I saw this guy who looked like Kevin, working out, and I kept sort of staring at him and then staring at him, and then finally I approached him. I said, are you Kevin Spears? And he very cautiously said yes, as if I might be a stalker or a serial killer. And I explained who I was, and he said, this is really fortuitous. I've had this idea to do a series, and maybe we should grab a coffee one of these days, which we did. And he talked about wanting to do a show about gay men who were grown-ups, who were our age, and that intrigued me or that didn't just intrigue me, that made me say, sure, let's pursue this. And because those are stories that just weren't seeing in anything relatively mainstream. And we had a bunch of coffee meetings, sort of throwing ideas around. And at one point, Kevin suggested it be maybe a show about this guy who's dating, and he's like 50 and he's dating, and each episode is a different date. And I said, well, I don't know, I've sort of seen versions of that story, I said, what intrigues me in that is, why is somebody who's 50 dating? Because if you could delve into that, then it's not just a surfacey thing, and we talked a bunch, and finally I shared with him that I had lost my partner. I guess it was about 2 years before that.
Yeah, about a year and a half. You had also asked me how you'd also asked me.
And I said, what if we take that as the reason he is at 50 dating, that he is going back into the dating world, or trying to.
Kevin,
And
when
then
you
we
started
back and forthing over in the next group of, we had a lot of coffee, about the idea of, well, Kevin had asked me, do you still, my partner's name was Richard. He said, do you still talk to Richard? And I said, yeah, all the time. And he said, well, it was the idea of, well, what if Jason, Mitchell's character, is physically there for Richard, for Brian, sorry.
Right.
Who's this, and that they actually have these scenes, and that was really intriguing. And then we started talking about playing with a lot of flashback, because I said, we need to see, we as an audience need to invest in the couple in order to care about what Brian is going through.
Right.
And
Kevin, when you and
doing a lot
Michael
of
started,
flashback, we got to show from start to finish, their relationship. And so the show operates on those three levels of the present, flashback, and what happens in Kevin's mind when he needs to talk to Jason.
when you started talking about the story arc of season 2, what did you and Michael want to accomplish?
Well, Michael and I had kind of put together a large amount of story for season 1. And we always joked about, if we ever go to a season 2 or a season 3, that'll get locked into that. And the only thing that I really wanted, spoiler alert, the only thing I really wanted to have happen in season 2 more than anything was that we still had some sort of surprise, some sort of reason to hang in with this character, and then sort of have an didn't see that coming. And Michael and I talked about that, and Michael had really sketched out this great arc of the story of where Brian was going, and I wanted to add to that we had some sort of Michael and I also wanted to create that Jason was not this god, this almighty what's the word we say? What's the word we use in the trailer?
Well, it was about when you put somebody up on a pedestal to a point that nobody you meet is ever going to be able to live up to that.
Right. Hi, Richie.
Hi, guys.
That's my husband.
That's his real.
That's my real husband.
That's the middle one is your real husband. The second husband.
Anyway, so we kind of created.
See what's happening. Enjoy it. I love you.
We kind of created that, hopeful that Brian had to work through that, had to work through the the new boyfriend and not making it a relationship about three people. So.
And Chris, you are quite literally the in season 2. Talk to us a little bit about coming into, what is, it's an ensemble cast. It shoots quickly. These folks know each other. And you're also coming in and you're kind of throwing some sand into the gears here.
Yeah, well, in regards to throwing sand, I feels like every role that I ever have played professionally always throws sand. So that was easy.
Sand thrower.
In regards to, I'm gonna put that on my resume. In regards to the, that they had already done season 1, Rich, and kind of like folding into their family, everyone that's there, everyone that's a part of this story, both in front of the camera, behind the camera, all come from the theater world in a big way. And in the theater world, we all just kind of like, you instantly are like, doing a quick change backstage naked, and you're like, I don't get it. Great. Like, what's your line? Great. Let's get on stage. Right. So I felt like it was just like a theater troupe that you just got to like dropped into, and you were just part of the family just on day one. So that was really easy. Yeah, and everyone's so nice and kind, and I know a lot of these actors, and I knew Kevin before, and working with Michael was new, but it just felt easy, and it shot in New York, or it shoots in New York, and in fact, my scenes were shot in a. This is just a little bit of the magic behind the camera, at a place where, as an actor, I had been going for years and years and years for auditions, for studio work. So it was just all felt like super, super familiar and super safe.
The day of the memorial?
Yeah, the day of the memorial.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So Tina, this show shoots very quickly. It shoots on location in New York. Everyone's got to be on their toes. What were some of the challenges to shooting in season 2? And also knowing that you've got 5 Emmy Awards in the win column. No pressure.
There you go. No pressure. Shoots very quickly is the big obstacle there. You said it. So it's always a tough thing, because you always want to get everything that you want, but you kind of have to settle for what you need at some point, because you have to keep moving, but you still want everybody to feel engaged, and you want to feel like you're all doing great work. So it's always that challenge, is to do the best you can, but always stay on time. You don't want to get fall back so bad in your schedule that you're just up against the wall, and then everybody's making quick decisions, and maybe not the best decisions, but just quick decisions. So it's always a challenge to just stay on time. And I had a cast that was already, very familiar with their characters. And, I may have had a couple of new characters, Christopher and Mike, kind of, because Mike was in the end of season 1. But, so everybody kind of felt like they knew that, and that was a good thing to walk into, where you didn't have to worry about trying to figure out the characters with them. A lot of them came with knowing that already. So it's just basically trying to, make sure you're steering them in the right direction.
And Mike,
and also being an established project, you're totally right. There's a certain amount of responsibility that you feel, and, I was with, Michael beside me, every time. And I just always wanted to make sure that they both, Kevin and Michael, felt good about what was going on, and make sure, as a writer myself, I wasn't coming into this as the writer, it was just the director. So I know how the importance as a director to understand the writing and have respect for it. So I try to keep that in mind going through.
And Mike, you come in full tilt into season 2. We get a little glimpse of you at the end of season 1. You come on board as a full-fledged cast member in season 2. And really, whether it's the writing, the direction, or the quality of your acting, inexplicably the audience, they begin rooting for David. Even though the dead guy is lurking around eating cereal, is sitting on the counter.
Right.
What were some of the challenges of bringing David in more fully formed in season 2?
Well, I think for me, the biggest challenge was David has a very sensitive bullshit meter, and he's seeing so much bullshit come at him from Brian because Brian hasn't dealt with his grief. And I have faith in Brian because I can see past it, but there just comes a point where you're like, I'm not interested in working with this anymore. I like you and there's potential, but this isn't going to work. And I think for me, the challenge was finding the gradations in those kind of disappointments or those confrontations, because I think we have something like 3 or 4 fights in season 2. And so it's kind of a fun thing to investigate, kind of the evolution of that part of the relationship, because, you know, every fight is really specific and different, and it was fun. It was fun.
And of course, you know, I think anyone who watched season 1 wanted more Franny, wanted more Carl in season
Yes.
2. And so Lenny, we, you know, normally we don't want to hang out and linger at memorial services, but this one we did. What was it like to have more of an acting, more of a you know, an integral part in season 2 with you?
Well, first of all, the writing was so amazing. I mean, it was such a gift for me and for Anita and for everybody in the cast. So thank you guys again for that gift. The thing that I love that they, of course, these are people who love their son to the nth degree. And I thought the memorial service really captured that grieving and that loss. But I love that they wrote 2 people that really have been able to move on and accept it, and that they so much want Brian to be able to move on, of the fact that they are the ones who introduced him to David, you know, to Mike's character. And so I think it really shows a genesis for them, that they aren't stuck and that they really want for Brian to be able to do what they've been able to do. And I love that they gave that the 2 of you gave him that color and that growth in season 2. So.
And Mitchell Anderson, you have, you know, as Kevin points out, they kind of ding Jason up a little bit in season 2. They remove the halo a little bit. We find out some shit.
The wings get clipped.
Yeah, the wings get clipped. So when you got to that part in the script, what was going through your mind as an actor, having played this guy for a while now?
Well, I think that reality is something that creeps into every story in life, right? And I think that we have one intention all the time, and that is to try to be as good a person as you can be, and love as much as you can love, and be as kind as you can possibly be. And yet, you know, a hot young writer comes into my life, and there's something very attractive about being attractive from, or having an attraction from, a young, smart guy. And I think that shows Jason's sort of vulnerability in life. He's not just that perfect character. The end of season 1, when you're so grieving about the loss, and for Brian to have to go on after forever and find out what that is, but to know that something real happened and something very difficult between the 2 of them happened before he got sick, before he had to make that choice to not take treatment, before he had to go through that awful process of dying. That's intense, and that's part of life. Like, life happens like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you find a way to move on, you find a way to grieve, you find a way to forgive. And I think that that's the beautiful part of the writing and the beautiful part of the story as it evolved into season 2.
Kevin, you assembled a marvelous sort of repertory company for season 1, and they came back. These wonderful actors who play all of these supporting characters that we get to know a little better in season 2. How did, I'm sure shooting this in a pandemic probably would be easier, but how were you able to get all of those folks to come back?
Well, I mean, Michael and I have relationships with basically everyone in the series. I knew Mike McGowan through theater. Christopher came along because we've known each other in LA, but Anita and Lenny and Katie and Aaron Cherry and the two Pauls, Jameson Stern and David Dean Bottrell, and Robert Emmett Lunny, we're a family, and they were knocking at our door going,
and Peter Kim and
Jim
Peter
Newman.
Kim
Yeah.
and
Yes, and Peter Kim and Jonathan Rayson and Finn Douglas, who's a star in his own right. But I think that the exciting thing was to creating the flashback for Brian's mom, and Michael had known Mary Beth Peel in the past, and I had known her just very briefly in some theater stuff. So that was a coup to have her come on board. But yeah.
well, it was also starting with season 1, because on the contract that this shoots on for SAG-AFTRA, I think y'all are paid. You're paid like $1.50 per day or something.
Something like that.
And every single person we sent the script to said, I want to be part of this.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, I know for me, and I know for Kevin, incredibly powerful. And, though we both knew Lenny's work, we didn't know Lenny. There was a blind, we got his contact information and just, wrote him a lovely letter and sent him the script. Anita, who I had a past with Anita because many years before, she had been the celebrity that I won the $20,000 pyramid.
Why?
So that was sort of,
That's a great story.
isn't it? And I had always followed her career anyway, but I was just always wanted to give her something to do once I was writing, and we had a mutual friend who was not willing to give her information to me, but said, I will act as a go-between. And she read the script and same thing, and called me the next day and said, this, I want to be part of this. And so we were really blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rich, if I can just add something that Christopher said about that day that we were shooting the memorial service in that studio with all of this ensemble of actors. As somebody who's not really in the business anymore, to be in New York City with these unbelievable actors was really especially on that day. It's something that I will never ever forget. It was one of the most moving and emotional days of my life.
It was a pretty extraordinary day, and it started with Christopher. You set the tone, buddy.
That's right.
I had that in that very room. I had lost over 500 auditions in the past 10 years.
So the emotion was easy.
Yeah. Yep.
And I got to tell you, if you're ever at your own funeral, you want to have Lenny Wolpe give your eulogy, because I cried every single time I heard it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We all did. We all did.
Kevin, I want to get you to talk a little bit about the response. I mean, it's nice to get Emmy Awards and a small truckload of Emmy Awards, to be sure, but there's been such an emotional response to this show. And we've talked previously about the importance of gay men who have felt invisible on screen. You hit a certain age and suddenly you disappear. It's something that women in Hollywood have been dealing with at a much more accelerated pace throughout Hollywood's history. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about fan response and what people have said to you about what the show means to them.
Well, thank you. One of the things I first had mentioned to Michael is that I wasn't receiving roles anymore. They were no more roles coming down the pike with my name on them, so to speak. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to create a show, and I was ready to just not care anymore. But I have to, I'm gonna let Mitchell talk about this, because you just got that fan letter. And it warmed my heart, because this 21-year-old.
Yeah, so
I wanted to post it without his name, and I dared not, because it's just, anyway, it's a beautiful thing. And Mitchell, thank you for sharing it. But that's the type of response I love.
This is this young boy from the middle of Tennessee. And it's a little bit surprising because, it's the first fan letter I've gotten from After Forever. Most of the fan letters I get are still from Jaws: The Revenge. Not kidding. But it was so beautifully written. This young boy grew up gay in a town where still in 2020, that's not apparently very easy. Had an abusive stepfather, but saw this story about these two men and all of their friends and all of the love and the family that stays by them and works through their grief and their anger and their love and has a real full experience.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me and said, I can't tell you how much that encourages me. And obviously that's why you do it. I mean, obviously that alone is the piece that makes the most sense, is that if you're telling stories that move people to greater understanding.
Yeah.
We've
Michael,
gotten a lot of, I mean, we get so much fan mail that specifically talks about how watching the show has helped them through their own grief and has shown them that there's a way there, that there's a possibility of getting through it.
Yeah.
And then remember that I think it was the day before the Emmys.
Yes.
Last year, we got this letter from this, we assume, young man. He didn't give his age, but who talked about how his relationship with his father had fallen apart when his mother died, and how watching this series for the first time he started to understand what it was his father was going through, having lost his spouse, and had a whole new understanding of what he had not even thought about, and how it was healing him.
Yeah.
And him, the writer. And you get those, and it's like that's why I do what I do, is to touch people in some way, to move people, to make people think differently, to make people not necessarily agree, but at least
open their minds.
Think about it.
And I do want to go back to the idea of the day that Michael and I crossed paths was what I called this universal crossing point. Whether I was on the moon or I was in another country, we were supposed to meet, and this story was supposed to be born. And I do know that any role that I take on usually comes from a place of healing something. And I know if I can heal something within me through that character, I'm prayerful that anyone watching is going to get that same healing. I'm hoping. And I just recently went to visit my my aunt's grave here in on Mount Sinai next to Forest Lawn on her birthday, and I didn't realize how much sadness and rage I had, and I hadn't really gone to her gravesite recently. And I said, this and that's going on, and I had this whole rageful, emotional, cathartic cry, and I went, and And my writing partner and I wrote a series about talking to dead people, and then we won Emmys, and it was just, this real beautiful, but I really believe that just because someone dies, the relationship doesn't die. The love doesn't die. It continues to go on. And I know that's what Michael and I have been able to see eye to eye on so much of, and I'm very proud of it.
So Kevin, I will admit I'm an inherently selfish person, and so I want to see more of it. I want to see Stefan. I want to see what happens next. What are the chances?
You will. Oh, you will.
What are the chances of that? We left things in and the dead guy is still going to be the dead guy. He apparently has nothing else to do, just hanging around eating cereal. So
he hasn't met anybody on the other side yet.
Right. We're going to see the other.
What are the chances that we will continue to track these characters and they will continue to come into our lives?
Michael, can I take that real quick?
Sure.
There is a season 3, and it's kind of.
And it was scheduled to be shot July, August.
Yeah. Then we got this crazy thing called the COVID, which causes production to be a little more expensive and a little more tricky. So we are holding on to the time that we can actually get that created, and that time we will do it. We will do it. And in the meantime, there's a little something that we've got planned for in between. We're not at liberty to talk about it at the moment, but there is something coming, and it features all of your favorites from the series, including
most of,
and the dead guy.
Wonderful. And I'm thinking season 3, like Carl and Franny just move into the guest bedroom.
There you go.
And they just move
Now that we know it's so comfortable. What were we waiting
Yeah,
for?
exactly.
From those earliest meetings, we talked. I mean, that arc was created of what happened season 1, what happened season 2, what happened season 3, and very much the story of, in season 1, the grieving is in that place where you only remember the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then season 2 allows some of the, wait a minute, everything wasn't good to come in, which is imperative if you're going to move on. And then season 3 takes it to the next level of that self-healing and moving forward.
Yeah.
We will look forward to it. So for the one person out there who does not yet know, seasons 1 and 2 of After Forever now available to watch and stream on demand on Amazon Prime. Mike, Lenny, Chris, Tina, Kevin, Michael Slade, and of course, Mitchell Anderson. Thank you so very much. This has been a treat.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich Eldridge.
Pleasure.
On behalf of Out on Film, I'm Rich Eldridge.